A very rainy good afternoon to everybody. Not that there is less water in Goa around, but yes, what pours from above is manna because that's fresh water. And I think this discussion today on transmission and the event for the last 2 days, if I may say, and for the next day tomorrow, is actually also like manna, which I hope will throw fresh light or refreshing light on the issues challenging the power sector. With these opening words, I would like to thank Harry for asking me over and privileging me with this opportunity to be amongst, should I say, a galaxy of audience and speakers and panelists. I wish I could have come yesterday, but the dull business of the government keeps you away, and well, it also helps you get excited and participate in some exciting shows like that I'm able to do today. So thank you, Mr. Dahl. I must say one word about him or a sentence about him, that he has a great way about people and is able to gather them around, and that's pretty good, not for his own CV, but also for the power sector. Amongst the panelists, distinguished panelists we have here today, Mr. Shakti Sinha, who's the Principal Secretary Energy, Government of Delhi, a very, very contentious seat, politically hot seat, and operationally very hot seat. We have Mr. Alok Roy from Reliance. Reliance is always a very dicey, I don't know if I should say that, but one is not always very sure how it's going to be. And of course, there are issues why it happens that way. Of course, Mr. Roy would know what I'm trying to allude to. Of course, we have also Sterlite, another important and growing player in the transmission sector, Mr. Bharadwaj. My colleague, Mr. Agarwal from Posoko, whom I wake up at 2 o'clock or 12 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning and ask him about a couple of things, or he sends me a SMS, or his boss sends me an SMS, because while I was just landing, I got an SMS that there was an earthquake in JK and everything is in order, not about JK, but about the transmission lines. And there was a cloudburst in Kishtwar, so everything is fine. So I keep getting these hourly updates on whatever is happening in the country, because after July 12, that has become very important. And of course, we have Mr. Srivastav from the CRC, and Mr. Arvind Singh from MSCTCL. I had an opportunity to meet him while I was in Mumbai a couple of months ago. I have in the audience Mr. Rajiv Yadav, who is the chairman of Assam Genco, my batchmate. Great to have you here, Rajiv. And I have Jayant Kavle here, who is also my batchmate and who is leading a very important company in the private sector and giving his shoulder to it. And then, of course, I have Sanjeev Ahluwalia, who's here, again, a colleague of mine. And it's great to have all of us here, and hope something comes out of this damn khichdi. While I will be chairing the panel, I'll just share a couple of views which I feel very strongly about, and kindly just kind of go through the sector, touching upon some more, shall I say, the flesh of what Harry mentioned. And along the way, we'll see what points I wish to flag, and I'm sure the panelists and the audience will come together and do something about it. It's a presentation, but I'm going to run through it pretty fast, since it's a pretty informed audience. So I'm just trying to make posers, tease you in a certain sense, while giving you the numbers and the items. So these are the three challenges, which is planning, construction development, and implementation. The small quote, which I think is there: bureaucrats like to play Sudoku with words, read policy statements in a scheming manner. There's a pun there because we make a lot of schemes and then they become quite schemy. Economists like labor capital profit brew. That should go well with the Goan atmosphere. Lawyers, rules, and agreements, and power sector players want power and profit at lightning speed, simply because electricity travels at lightning speed. But none of them can succeed at the chosen task unless they work together in designing sustainable solutions. I think that's very important, which is why we are here. This is the entire framework of what the electricity sector is. Nothing new to you guys, except that there's too many bricks there, and all these bricks are required to build the wall, the house, whatever, of the power sector. So, mother of all challenges, I feel, Harry mentioned right when he said, look, transmission is a second cousin or third cousin or a fourth cousin of the entire power sector. He should have taken transmission as the first session of this event, and then of course he would have elevated it to the first cousin or the first relative. But anyway, it's towards after generation. Somehow we have not yet got over to the fact that transmission probably should lead generation. Probably this is going to be the challenge which we need to address and see how transmission is to lead the generation. So that's the mother of all challenges. And this is the network which I borrowed from my colleague yesterday. And I've added a couple of things. You see the middle of the trans system, which is trying to network with so many guys. And I could have put a GENCO system there, but, well, I'm at the center of the universe, so damn the GENCO. So as you can see, it's a huge network. And that blue thing is a key issue as you look at the challenges of the transmission sector, apart from what else is there in terms of the RPC or the CERC or the generator or the licenses, etc., etc., etc. So you have your Friendly Electricity Act to begin with, and which says that you should take measures conducive to development of electricity, rationalization of electricity tariff, ensuring transparent policies, promotion of efficient blah blah, federal structure of governance. Now that is, well, maybe that is of course the strength of our people. It also comes to be at points in time the Achilles heel, and we need to see how to really address this, because that is a key issue when we go forward in the transmission sector. Just a word on what we how we have progressed, and I think just recalling these figures, you see, if you look at the private capacity addition which has taken place, why am I saying private capacity addition? Because that is actually going to drive the power sector, in fact the whole economy of India forward, and as a developed country it has to. I've just returned from a small training session somewhere, don't ask me the name. But I'm quite convinced that unless we will be doing things which will be supporting the entrepreneurship of the masses, if I may use the word, we're not going to become a big country where we have only 1/5, 20% of the world average as per unit consumption. So as you can see, the private capacity addition is, it's huge. It's gone from 7 to 23 to 46, and it's going to go again. That's kind of a number in the 13th plan. And the share, as you can see, has gone from 12 to 27 to 31. A part of it is from renewables, basically wind, but it is growing, and you can see that. Now, what it has done is that whereas earlier we had the government sector, with the private sector, it is obviously driven by a lot of, not just stability motives, but profit motives. And why not? Unless it's going to make money, it doesn't have subsidy at its home in the kitchen yard to go to. And therefore, that has brought in a lot of, should I say, a lot of cloud in the whole atmosphere. Like you have a clear sky, you have the central public sector, and then now you have the private sector coming. It's a lot of flexibility, a lot of newness has come into the system. And the butter to the fire has been added by the instability of the earlier people who are stable, and that is the state government or the DISCOMs or the procurers of the entire system, which is the other end of the system. And we have to come together. And I think one element of this needs to be discussed at some stage with the lawmakers, and I don't know what, but somewhere along the line we must have a sensitization of all the policy makers at the state level to see how they can be sensitized to this. And I would request Harry to do something on this part and launch some workshops or some sensitization events for that. Going forward, of course, you have this issue of MTOA, STA dominating rather than long-term access, something which has been mentioned. I will also mention this second last bullet, many of them change their drawing points now. That is also a fact. I will not take names. But then let me not put a blame there. Let me say that has what is kind of the driving change, the effects of the change which has happened, because somebody thought that, look, here is a circuit which is vacant, a transmission corridor which is vacant, let's use that and sell short-term power. So bingo, you had a lot of that kind of arrangement where you sold a lot of short-term power, made a lot of money, but that cannot be a model for the future, which probably is what is important as we go forward. Most of the dry utilities do not want to actually plan. That is an unfortunate thing, and that is why I feel we need to look at how we really get around. And my feeling is very simple, and that is this, that unless we have a talk to them, and not just one talk, I mean, it will take a lot of talks to them, a lot of discussions with them, to make all of us understand that this kind of uncertainty will not gel. Because at the end of the day, we really want an advanced adequacy, we need security, we need stability, and flexibility. In the transmission sector, again, in terms of the construction, I told you about the generation thing, now about the construction. As you can see, in terms of to compare with them, but at least I would not like to compare with them, and they have their issues. But tell me a country which is progressing. US, for instance. Of course, somebody will say US is a big dad, it's got 1,000 gigawatt plus, and you don't compare with them. It's going to grow at 0.3% through to 2035. You tell me a country, Canada, take the Scandinavian, take the rest of the world. Nobody is progressing at this rate. Maybe somebody is going to be a little bit behind. So I am quite optimistic about the Indian power sector, even going forward. It's not just going to fall into the ditch tomorrow. And I see that there's a huge growth opportunity there. And I think it's a question of just all of us getting around to tackle the elements which are there. I mean, I don't want to get into details of the right-of-way, and Harry mentioned about the high-capacity transmission corridors is 80,000 megawatts, of which if we take a couple of 1,000 megawatts here and there. And what is important as we go in the transmission sector is the RE. You see, that is going to throw a lot of, shall I say, spiced up uncertainty into the whole system because of the nature of the way it is. It is the way it is. And then as we go forward, in terms of sheer construction, I see Sterlite running into problems every other day. And there are a couple of other issues also, primarily because of what you're seeing in front of you. There is an ROW issue, there's a regulatory issue, there is a land acquisition issue, there's a right-of-way issue, and there's a forest clearance issue. I'm happy to share that we have, and I hold no brief for anybody, but I must say that the Minister Power, Mr. Scindia, and Minister Environment, Madam Natarajan, get together pretty often. In fact, we have a meeting on 6th, just on 6th, a couple of days from now, which is going to be the third meeting in the last 4-5 months to sit together and see where we progress on a whole range of issues. And I think we are making some steady progress. Of course, there are issues. And in fact, I was sharing with somebody while I was coming from the airport that, look, and Jayant is sitting here, the challenge of hydro development is not about technology. It is not about anything else except honestly trying to manage environment and people. And I, for one, don't have a handle on that. And I am not seeing anybody, and I repeat, anybody, doing any comprehensive thinking on how to tackle it. And trust me, I'm in touch with a lot of hydro developers. One does this review, and I'm quite infamous for reviews because I do them quite diligently, at least from my side. But honestly, that is a very big issue which is in fact troubling my mind on the issues facing this sector. And I would love to see and hear somebody who's going to talk about that. Going forward, the key factors which we need to take into account, and I'm sure people will speak on this, is the current provisions of connectivity and access. GNA is as a word which is being mentioned. I really don't know how it's going to work out, because I'll just show a slide shortly which really makes me question as to how we are going to girdle this issue of GNA. And probably the solution might lie there at the end of the day. We want available power, we want dependable power, and we want reliable power. And just a little bit of nitty-gritty, which I keep following every other day. There's a whole bunch of trippings happening every time. Every day, POSOCO sends me, साहब 400 kV के 2 लाइनें टूट गई, 200 kV की 3 लाइनें टूट गई, वो स्टेशन ऑफ हो गया, ये स्टेशन ऑफ हो गया. And this keeps on happening. So management of the grid discipline is really, really a big issue. And of course, PGCIL is very importantly placed in terms of doing its role. I don't know, Agarwal will speak on it. But I would love if, of course, we don't have a big transmission sector in Delhi, but I would love somebody say something about how the intrastate transmission is going to be tackled as we go forward. The challenge of grid discipline, I mean, Harry's mentioned it is here, so, but in any case, it's important, is very much there, and grid security is very important, and trust me, we are working on a number of things, although it's not easy. The CRC is helping us along. As you can see, we asked for a 49.9 to 50.1 hertz of frequency tightening. They said, no, we are going to do it 49.95 and 50.05, so that's good news in a way. We have been able to levy congestion charges, UI limits, but I'm not happy about, announcing that, look, I'm having congestion charges and UI limits. It's just like saying, okay, I'm having one more law to police you. I mean, policing never helped people and never helped progress them. So this policing is fine in the short term, but never in the long term. So what we need to see is how can, in fact, what kind of a model can we put in place, given the federal structure which I placed in the first slide, of getting the whole circuitry across the country on board in terms of managing the grid discipline. And trust me, no matter what law we pass, no matter what provision we make, unless all of us agree to a certain discipline, I don't think we can really call ourselves a secure grid. And these things are very important protection systems. Islanding, Delhi has taken the lead, done. Punjab promised a lot, it's not done. UP promised a lot, it's not much progress, except my being able to answer the parliament questions that, look, we are trying to do something. But a number of states, again, have not really come forward in trying to do what I'm saying. But I'm happy to share, at least in terms of what efforts we are doing, and I'm sure you'd be interested in knowing what I am doing, what we are doing. We are getting around to a detailed DPR of about 6,000 crore rupees to installing protection systems all over the country in all the major 200 kV plus stations, whether state or PGCIL or whatever, and getting it, or should I say, assisted by something called a Power Systems Development Fund, courtesy CERC and the government, and trying to see how we can get the basics of the infrastructure right, because that is also a challenge, and we need to see with the increasing participation, of course, now, at the moment there's not much participation of the private sector so much in the transmission sector, but I'm sure it is going to grow. I mean, right now we are processing 13 lines for being bid out in the private sector for the transmission, interstate transmission. Along the way, we have constituted a number of committees, task forces, etc., which are doing the job. This is what I was mentioning. I won't go through the exact things, but yes, this is an Achilles heel, and I would love to have some ideas, some commitments somewhere. Somebody like to give me an idea which I can carry forward, not just a lecture on you should do this or you should do that, on handling and ring fencing the SLDCs. Of course, POSOCO has tried to do its bit by capacity building, but capacity building is one thing. It's one thing to have knowledge, and another thing to be able to apply it in whatever environment one is working. Telemetry and the gizmos of communications are very important. So is PMU. The PGCIL is working on a 655 crore project. You'll be telling me, well, sir, why are you telling all this? Well, I'm just telling you because we are doing this, and you should be happy to know that something is happening. 600 crore PMU installation in all of PGCIL, and the CERC approval is going to come very shortly. We are pursuing it, along with the laying of optic fiber across all the important line substations concerned with that. The other challenge is the market challenge. Again, because of the huge role which the private sector has come in. And this also, while it's very good to have the Scandinavian example of 80% short term, but that honestly is not an example which India should consider. For the very simple reason that, what's the per capita consumption of Scandinavian countries? Typically Finland, Sweden, anybody? Anybody? Well, it's upwards of 30,000. And of course, India is 800. Canada is 40,000. US is 24,000. China is 4,000. So I don't think we can make a comparison. Of course, somebody will say, look, you're not being ambitious. You're not being, not thinking big or this or that. But I don't want to think so much big that I'm going to, not live the next day. I mean, I have to hedge my bets and I have to see what path I can follow, not professing Buddhism as a middle path, but certainly a practicable path in terms of how to take it forward. So we'll have to find some kind of a unique way of doing this, and I'm sure today's discussion will help find some ways. We are struggling with something, and here is some acronym stuff on what kind of market models exist. Most of you would know what it is. We had a discussion on it just a couple of days ago, and thanks to which I have these slides here. And you will see that, look, let me give you this ISO, Independent System Operator. You can see it's in parts of Europe, it's in parts of North America, but as you can see, the maximum is what? I mean, maximum is the vertically integrated utilities. Now, if you have most of the world doing vertically integrated utilities, I don't think that's a model which we can follow. So we have to follow something called at least we believe in the government, the ISO model, because that's a very important part of operating a system once you have created it, which should be a subject of discussion today. And we are trying to see how to take it forward. This is the ISO model which was discussed a couple of days ago in the ministry, and we are trying to see how best it can work for India. This is how the organization structures exist globally. Why am I saying this? Why I'm saying this is because people would say that, okay, fine, I mean, you have a transmission structure, but who's going to predicate upon its independence or how it's going to happen? We have models of authority, this, that, blah, blah. But we did a world survey, and this is what it looks like. So I would love to have advice on how to build, for instance, an independent system operator. What we lack, and that's mentioned, is this something called Energy Reliability Organization, which is there in US. And I somehow feel, not that I'm lackey of any country, but I think the US model, it seems to be at the end of the day, pretty something in which we may have some similarities to copy, not identicalness, but similarities to copy. Hence I'm pointing this out. And while we have the RPC and we have the CEA, but it's not there. Why am I putting it here? I'm putting it here because I would love to have a discussion here, and then if there is enough mass of discussion and it throws it, and that kind of ideas come forward to the government, I'm sure the government will act in terms of seeing what can be done. Finally, I'm coming to getting the whole thing around in terms of the structure. This is what are the rules of the game. You have to ensure optimal development to promote efficient utilization, attracting investments, which is a lot of guys here would be interested, and implementation of the projects through competitive bidding, which we're already there. I'll quickly bring you to the GNA thing, which I have in point. Connectivity as it exists, no charges, and you don't pay, you don't get. That's the way it is. I mean, it's very good to have Section 38 subclause 3 giving you connectivity, but then if it's going to be pure ST, then obviously there's no fun in giving that, and that's the question we need to answer in terms of what we have in the existing structure. The regulations, Harry did mention about that. Regulations allow these systems strengthening only when there is an LTA. Because the way we have modeled is, that's the way we have modeled. I mean, you can say it's wrong, but I don't think it's wrong, because that's the way it has evolved. I mean, we were VIUs, and we had the large public sector GENCOs who had the transmission utilities. Along 1975, they changed, and we are developing as we are, as you know. But, so it's not wrong. It's just that now we need to see how to change that. And I don't know. I mean, how can you change from the long-term PPA philosophy? Can we have a purely short-term agreement philosophy, I really don't know. I mean, this needs to be discussed. Because as you can see, you know, this is the goddamn uncertainty. The last column, as you can see, 3,500 draw beyond allocation. I mean, or 2,900. If you break it out in percentages, it looks quite silly. I mean, the point made by Harry. I mean, look at the graph. I mean, people are just above the red line. They want to just be above the red line. Those who are below the red line don't matter really. You can see the states. And this is, again, the same thing in a different way, which makes out that the drawal minus the allocation, this is what it looks like. And look who's there. UP, Maharashtra, pardon me, Ajay Mehta, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Delhi a little bit and not too much. Now, this is music to the private players. I don't think it's music for the country. It is to a part, yes, but this is not music. Because I feel that, as a country, we can only grow when we have certainty. And that is one thing which we have to ascertain and assure ourselves. And once we ascertain and assure ourselves, then probably we can look at how this thing will go. This is a kind of mesh which Harry's also spoken about, made a presentation. I have supported him, and I still support him, and I will continue to support him on this issue, because there is need to think how to do this damn thing. So what should be the approach? You want fair degree of certainty, but you don't want injection and withdrawal certainty, a generation GNA agreement with the driver. Can it be the investment? I'm proposing something else, something called a GPA, in addition to a GNA. It's not exclusive. It's general purpose purchase agreement. Think of it. Suppose, as a DISCOM, suppose you have a law which says, look, you can't draw unless you have an agreement. Like as much as you can't inject unless you have an agreement. Think of it. Possible benefits, of course, market-friendly, accountability, generators will flexibility, plus, lot of stuff is going to happen. The second bullet is important. What is going to be the GNA charge? Somebody should answer that question. We should get somewhere near approximations. Because unless you answer that question in all honesty, you are only going to talk about the theory of GNA. And that is something which we can discuss today as we go along in terms of the implementation. This is some idea you have to have 4 or 5 years in advance. I mean, that's my story. You tell your story. The panelists will speak, and of course, the audience will participate. The difficult path to travel in terms of all the regulations. And that kind of brings me to the end of my presentation. The most beautiful butterfly in the world. Thank you very much.